Hey everyone, this is Keith from Coffee with Keith and the Color of Coffee Collective. On Keeping It a Bean today, we're talking diversity, equity, and inclusion. Stick around, we've got a great conversation for you today.
He wants to know, how do we treat each other? How do we help each other? I'm going to dedicate my life to using my name and popularity, helping charities, helping people, uniting people. So when I die, if there's a heaven, I want to see it.
So some of the misconceptions with diversity, equity, and inclusion includes this fear-mongering that diversity, equity, and inclusion means that there's a zero-sum acceptance of people of color taking over for people of non-color, white people specifically. This idea that people of color are coming to take positions and jobs and placements and things of that nature are just not true. What diversity, equity, and inclusion really means is someone like me, a disabled veteran who served for this country, is a part of that conversation when we talk about not having diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within both schools and jobs. So when we look deeper into what diversity, equity, and inclusion means, we have to look at every single program, its benefits and its outcomes, and then the verbiage around that to ensure that people of all walks of life are included in the conversation without exclusion. The fear that is being portrayed upon Americans is so clearly divisive that the powers that be are ensuring that they get a word out that is clearly wrong and to be honest, is reprehensible. You know, this fear of diversity, equity, and inclusion continuing to be a talking point, or that there should be a timetable on when diversity, equity, and inclusion should end. There's no expiration date on doing what's right. There's no expiration date on doing what's fair. You always do what's fair and you always do what's right because it's the right thing to do for each human being. So to have this conversation is very important to me. It's very important to our organization to continue to have these conversations and dialogue, not just in coffee, but to have these conversations in general so that people of color and diverse communities from different backgrounds and different walks of life who may not look like you, may not talk like you, and may certainly not dress like you, get the same fair shake at the table as everyone else.
Governor Abbott is telling state agencies to stop focusing on diversity when hiring people. In a memo obtained by the Texas Tribune, the governor's office says hiring based on anything other than qualifications is illegal. Diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are meant to support groups who have been underrepresented or discriminated against in the past. The governor's office says the policies actually discriminate against certain demographics, but did not specify which ones.
What's really rooted in this diversity, equity, and inclusion fear tactic is the whole idea of people being afraid to lose or the potential loss of what they consider their status quo or their particular position in life. And I just want to encourage you, if that's your thought, that's your process, that's how you feel about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's important for you to know treating people fairly and equitable, it's not just a basic right and a human right, it's a respect and responsibility that you should have as a human. And to fear that you will lose something as a result of someone else gaining is a tactic that's only been shared, rooted and grounded in racism in America. We have to begin to understand that treating people fairly and doing what is right towards your fellow man is the right thing to do, and it creates more opportunities for everyone at the table. To my friends and colleagues, both in coffee as well as out, for those of you who remain silent in this moment of this is a travesty of trying to abolish diversity, equity, and inclusion, I want to encourage you in the words of the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King, who once said that the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in the moment of controversy and trials. And we are literally in the moment of controversy. And we need your support. We need your voice. We need you to speak up and walk alongside those of us who are standing to create change, both in coffee as well as out, to make a world a better place, especially here in America, for us to live. The promises of America, that every man is created equal. And in that vein, everyone should be given the same opportunities without any judgment, without any impartialities. And that's our goal. When we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we talk about the things that are important to remember the truths behind. And that is that diversity, equity, and inclusion does not just mean that Black folks or Latin folks or people of color are coming for positions and places or even money in the place of white people. But diversity, equity, and inclusion also looks like me, not just Black, but a veteran, a disabled veteran who wants to see and wants to leave an impact for my children on this world, to be able to walk into the same spaces and places that other folks get their opportunities to walk. But also for my friends in the LGBTQ plus community who, oh, by the way, are a part of our team and we support. Their voices matter. Every single aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion means that we see people for who they are, and that is human beings who are just trying to make an impact on the world. So as a part of our call or in our ask, especially in coffee, is to ensure that we have a conversation that centers itself around truth around diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also centers itself around dispelling the myths that continue to run rampant within the streets of diversity, equity, and inclusion to create fear. There's no timelines. There's no expiration date on when you should be fair to someone. Right is right. Doing what is right should always be your mantle. And if for some reason your religious views, your political views, your personal views don't align with doing what's right, then I urge you to really take a hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, what impact am I making? What difference am I making in the world? Because what really matters is the legacy we leave behind. It begins with us being honest with ourselves. How we change the world and how we change our small little community begins with diversity. We cannot ever expect to have real dialogue unless we sit down with our brothers and sisters. We don't have to agree, but we certainly have to understand. And understanding begins with a conversation. And I hope today that you walk away from this conversation understanding that we at the Color of Coffee Collective, our number one goal is to create a table that is centered around people from all walks of life to come sit down and have a conversation, but more importantly, make an impact that changes coffee forever. And hopefully, just hopefully, we begin with coffee and it spills over to the rest of the world. Because impact begins one cup at a time. Again, thank you for tuning in and listening to this Keep It a Bean conversation. We're really excited about the work that we're doing, and we hope that you will continue to follow along with us and, more importantly, support us in all ways that you can. As we continue to make change in this world, we know that because you're here, you also want to see change, and we appreciate that. And we look forward to our next episode, but we also look forward to you joining us in some of the ventures that we do to continue to create change. Because diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just a conversation, but it is a lifestyle that we continue to build, and we hope that you're a part of it as we grow.